Hey friends, Sean here with Manly Made Minute, and welcome back to my 30-day watercolor challenge. Today is day 24 and I'm switching gears for my last 6 days. So I have gone through the gamut of using my pan watercolors that I have, my shimmer watercolors that I have, my Tim Holtz watercolor pencils that I have, and then I've used Perfect Pearls, and just recently now I've been using those Nouveau shimmer powders that I got. So I'm going to completely shift gears. I want to see if all these techniques now that I've been using to get my shading and my highlighting and different things will work with a completely different product. So what I'm going to do now for my last 5 or 6 days here is I'm going to use either ink pads or ink refills and see if I can get the same effect that I would with an actual watercolor product. Even though these are water soluble, water reactive, I'm hoping so. So I'm going to try also a different technique today. I have seen on Instagram this watercolorist who takes a syringe filled with a liquid that is similar to these ink refills. That's why I'm starting with these. Filled it in a syringe, dabs it on the paper, then takes her water and wipes through those and then paints and makes what she's going to out of it. I want to do similar kind of technique, except what I'm going to do is I have embossed my same stamp that I've been using here for 24 days. I'm going to pool the water within that embossing, so I've got a good puddle of water. Then I'm going to just take one little dot of my ink and dop it in those sections and let it bloom out and dry. That's it. Not doing anything else, not going to be pulling the water back, not going to be pulling back for highlighting, shading. Drop it, done, dry it is what I'm going to go for. So let's head on down and take a look at what we're going to do. And then as always, I will set this on high speed, set this to music, and then we'll see you on the other side. So let's just head on down and take a look. Here's what I have. I've got my emboss. I'm going to zoom in. Same stamp, embossed in black. I'm going to use my Catherine Pooler ink refill. So I'm using Do-Si-Do and Glitz for a pink and yellow flowers. Then I'm going to use for my greenery Grass Skirt and Melon Ice. Y'all know me, I like a little yellow in my greenery, so that's where the Melon Ice comes in. And that's all we're going to do. This should be relatively easy. This should be relatively quick. So I'm just going to take and I think for my dot, I could use a toothpick. I could use any. I could probably use the end of my brush, but it seems kind of big. So I'm going to use my pick tool, if that works, and just pick up a little bit of that ink and dab it into that water and let it go, and see if that works, as acting as the syringe kind of effect. Okay, all right. I'm going to start pooling this on my stamp, and we're going to do some dabbing and dotting, and hopefully I get just a really cool effect. So I'm going to see you on the other side. This is day 24. This is using Reinkers by Catherine Pooler Ink, and I've used the Do-Si-Do, my Glitz grass skirt, and my melon ice for my leaves. So definitely a different product. This, I started out by just trying to do the toothpick kind of thing, simulating the syringe, but it just works better to use a brush. Something different with this product, and it's got to be the chemical makeup, is when I was using this tool, dabbing it in here, dabbing it in, the yellow dispersed immediately through all the water. The pink, not so much. I had to really work at it. It was almost like putting oil in water. It would kind of sit on the surface, and I could see it, little dots of it, until I tapped it to break it up with my tool. And so that's what happened on this first flower. Then when I switched to the brush, it still disperses much different than a watercolor and the watercolor pencils and the products I've been using up to this point. And with the yellow, this is an orange yellow, so there's an orange undertone to this. And I was trying to get that orange to pop out, and I had to wait until that water set back and soaked in just a little bit more to get that secondary undertone pop through. And then I had to do the same here with the pink. I had to wait till that set back to get that variance in shade. Otherwise, I think it has something to do with how water soluble this is, that I would dab it and keep dabbing it, and it would just disperse and disperse and disperse and keep staying pink versus intensify. So I had to let it set back just to get my variance in color. However, the greens, much different. And I took out a scratch piece of watercolor paper to show you the difference. For some reason, well, first off, my greenery, the best it's ever turned out. Absolutely the best. The way that this lighter green reacts with this darker green just kind of swivels through that yellow green and gives me this texture, which is kind of, to be honest, what I've been trying to get this leaf this whole time. So super happy with this turnout, super happy with how this works. I just know now, working with it, it's kind of like oil and water. I've got to use different tools to get that to disperse in the water, and then set back just a little bit to get those variances and shades. I'm not going to be able to pool a whole bunch in a pool of water and get it to stay there. So let me show you what happens with these greens. I'm going to take some clean water, and I'm just going to put a pool of it right here on my paper. Okay, so I've got a good puddle going, and it's like a bubble or a puddle of water. Now I'm going to take my melon ice, my light green, and I'm going to tap it over here on the edge, and you can kind of see it immediately starts to, it's almost like it just goes poof and it's all over in that water. Okay, but it's not totally, it's a little heavier where it's slowly puddling over, right? Now, watch what happens. I'm going to take and clean off my brush, pull some of that water off. I'm going to pick up a little bit of this green. Now, you can tell this green's much thicker even. If I tap this in there, you can see how that just almost pushes that other color around. It's like oil and water. It's pushing this yellow around. And so I get almost, this is almost makes it look like a tie-dye kind of effect. But with my leaves, and because of my embossing, when it started to push around, it would push around that embossing and around that yellow, and that's how I got that effect. So if I keep adding to this, you can see it just keeps dispersing out until it dries back, and then I get that darker tone. Okay? Now let me just take some of that light back in there. What's this going to do if I put light back in there? Will it push it like oil and water and push that green back? Let's try. No, because I've got a lighter color that's just going to mix. It is moving. You can see it kind of moving around a little bit, but because it's lighter, it's lightening it, and it's still moving it. And now if we were to dry this back, we're going to get a little bit different texture, because these, it's almost like they do mix, but they don't mix, right? And so you can see that yellow swirl in there. And I'm not going to be able to dry that completely back for time, but there you have it. All right. So, really happy with Reinkers. Reinkers work really, really well for this technique, especially when you've got embossing. I can definitely see doing a background like this and throwing water up there and having this more of a tie-dye effect, I think would look really cool for a background. But when I'm doing florals and things, the embossing worked really well to contain it. And I feel like this is the most intense color that I've been able to get in almost one swipe, versus those watercolors and colored pencils come out a little more pale. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging with me on day 24. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and comment. Would be greatly appreciated. And would love to have you if you follow my journey. I've got 5 days left of watercolor challenge. I've got a ton of Christmas videos coming out here in the next couple weeks. So hope you subscribe and hang out with me. And until next time, I'll see you then.